Hey, this is Chris with Suarez Home and Finance. Welcome to Coffee with Chris every Monday, 10 o'clock. So today we're going to be talking about documents and what documents that you need in order to buy a home or to refinance. So there is a lot in the process. A lot of people think that if you go to your bank that you've been banking with for 30, 40 years, that you will not need as many documents that you would if you came to somebody like me. That's not the case, probably 95% of the time, if not more. The only reason why that would happen is that if you are at your bank, they can pull your bank statements right there from your accounts in most cases, I would assume. I don't work for a bank, so that's the only assumption that I can make as far as that's concerned. But all of the other things that we need are still going to be required. And required and needed during the process. And so we're going to go through a list of things that we're going to need and explain kind of the ins and outs of why and the what's and whys of you needing those. So let's see. Okay. So let's see, I'm adding this in here. So what documents do you need for your mortgage? So for income, you need your last 30. So if you're employed, a W-2 employee, you are going to have your last 30 days of pay stubs. Why? Because we need to see that, one, you've been working for 30 days and your job may have changed to where that you're starting a new job, or you've only been working for 1 week at your new job or something like that. That's fine, but we still need 30 days of history. We need 2 years of history in the long term. But in order to, for documentation and everything else, we go back just 30 days. So on your pay stubs, those are going to tell us what your pay rate is. Are you hourly or salary? Do you have any garnishments coming out of your paycheck, like child support or alimony or something like that? Even if you're in the military, a lot of times if you are divorced, then that comes out of that as well. So there's different things that we're looking at on there. If you are hourly, are your hours 40 hours a week, or are they averaged? So tons of information that we get on that. And again, you have to have 30 days of pay stubs. Those are most recent 30 days, not from December of last year. And so tax returns. Number 2 is tax returns. So if you have no self-employment, then your tax returns will be pretty cut and dry. But we still need all the pages in order to see, did you claim any kind of self-employment? Maybe you did sold some stuff on Etsy. Maybe you're doing eBay. And so some of those things or whatever, you may not be making a ton of money, but they were still claimed on your tax return. So we still need you will need all of the pages of the tax return. If you are self-employed, then you will need those. If you claim your self-employment on your personal taxes, then again, the reason why you will need all of your pages of your tax return. If you have a separate company, that will reflect on your personal, and that will show us, okay, yes, we need a business tax return as well. Again, same thing, need all pages. I know it's cumbersome, whatever the word is. I know that it's a lot. A lot of times the accountant can send you that. If you don't have all pages, your accountant can send you that and you can forward it to us, password protected, everything else, that's fine. But you will need that in order to, that's how we see what numbers and everything else come across. So that is the tax returns. It tells us self-employed. Can you add miles back in? Can you do all of these different things? And so that is required again. Then you will need your W-2s. So if you are employed, we have to see W-2s, 2 years of W-2s to show, again, your history. You're going to, again, these are documents. You have to show this is your record of being paid and so on and so forth. So that is required. W-2s, it's not an option. It is required. Again, I know it's a lot, but you'll need to have those. A lot of times the accountant gives you back your tax return, but your W-2s are not with it. So it's not that they didn't provide it back to you. Maybe they got the number from you or something, but you do have to have those W-2s. So a lot of times people will give me a tax return and say the W-2s are there. They're not there. They're listed in the return, but you need the physical W-2 that you get from your employer. 1099s. So you get a 1099 in most cases if you're fixed income. So if you're fixed income, you'll need your awards letter. So if you receive Social Security income, whether it's your Social Security because you are at the certain age to receive Social Security, or whether you're on disability, we will need your awards letter. If you are receiving pension, if you're receiving annuity, those letters will state on there, depending on what type that is, those letters will state on there whether you're going to be receiving it for the rest of your life. We have to show that on fixed income that you're going to be receiving it at least 3 more years. And so it's got to say either 3 more years or for the rest of your life. So Social Security, you're at a certain age and you're receiving that, that's a given. So we don't need anything on that. Pension, that's usually a given as well. Annuity is not. So annuity is usually you have a balance, and so we have to show that there's a big enough balance there for you to still get that for the next 3 years. So that is important that we have those. Again, it's paperwork. Yes, you may not have it handy. A lot of times it's a phone call that you can get it. Social Security now has to where you can actually create an account and go online and get your Social Security awards letter. So it's made it very simple. If you are missing your W-2s, IRS, same thing. You can actually go onto IRS's website and get your W-2 transcript. And so again, same thing with your tax return transcript. So whenever you go into IRS, all the secure stuff is there. It's got 4 sections of what you can draw from: your W-2 transcripts, your W-2 and 1099 transcripts, your tax return transcript. So if you can't find your tax return, you can pull your tax return transcript and provide that. So a lot of things are made easy in order to get those. So there are ways to get it easy enough. You just have to, be a little bit diligent, but it is required in order to buy a home or refinance. Most of the things are. So if you have the next is the job offer letter. So if you are starting a new job, or you're going to be starting a new job in 30 or 60 days, so we would need your job offer letter. That has to show this is what your pay is. It hourly or salary? And it's got to specify all of those things. It can't just say you're going to get paid $20 an hour, period. We've got to have hours of what you're expected to get paid in order to calculate your income. So a job offer letter, yes, we can use that. Yes, you can start your job in the future, but it's got to have a start date. It's got to have that criteria on it. So that's the basics of income. So next we have credit. So credit is lots of things. I call it a dates and numbers game. So what scores are used? So there's 3 scores. So whenever your credit is pulled for a mortgage, the information on the credit report is basically the same as whenever you pull your credit online, whether it's from Credit Karma, annual credit report, any of those. So the information is going to be the same, but how the score is arrived from is different, because you are getting a mortgage. You are going into a bigger financial responsibility. So if you were to pull your credit online, whenever we go to pull it, your scores are most of the time, not all the time, sometimes they're higher, but most of the time going to be less. So we use that as a tool. So whenever we get your credit scores, that dictates what kind of loan also that you're going to be able to do. And so there's 3 scores. There's Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. So we take those 3 scores and then we use the middle of the 2. So that's how a mortgage works, is that you pull the 3 bureaus and you take the middle of the 2. Sometimes if you go to a credit union or this or that or whatever, they only pull one type of credit report, but in the general scheme of things, in the bigger picture, it's normally the 3 bureaus and the middle of the 3. And then if you have 2 people that are going on the loan, husband and wife, partners, whatever, you take the middle of the three, and then you take the lesser of the two. So if I have a 700, my husband has a 640, it's going to be the 640 that dictates on the loan. So that's how credit works. So here's some tips as far as credit whenever you're buying a house. So don't start paying things off. If you pay things off to a zero balance, then that can actually decrease your score. Keep your balances less than 30% of the limit. So if you have $1,000 limit, try to keep your balance under $300. I always try to do a cushion, and so actually do a little bit less than $300 and do like $275. But don't pay it less than $5 or $10 balance, because then it's a numbers and dates game. It shows that you know how to use your credit and maintain it. Use it and pay it. Use it and pay it. That's keeping your balances. If you have any collection come up during the process, so if you're checking to get a mortgage today, you want to get financing, you want to get going and everything else. If you get something in the mail or phone calls that you owe, like a doctor bill or something, medical doesn't it doesn't deny you from a loan, but it does affect your credit score. So we don't look at the account, but it affects your credit score. Absolutely. So if you are getting any of those calls recently in the time that you're trying to get a home loan, to get a mortgage, then you need to take care of those and prevent it from going on the credit report. If it has, then you need to try to have the hospital or whatever recall it. There's a whole nother process on that. So that's where we're looking at credit to see what we need to do in order to keep you moving, in order to get you into a home. So the next thing is assets. Assets meaning bank statements, retirement funds, 401k, things like that, that are money in the bank that you have. You may not necessarily need them to buy a home, but you need to have them. So whenever you're looking at assets, so whenever I say to you, I need 2 months of bank statements and all of your assets, so I need 2 months. Reason being is because you cannot just put deposits into your bank of, say, 30, 40,000 and be able to use that in order to buy a home 2 weeks later. The only way that you can do that, you cannot do that with green cash. You can do that if you cashed in a retirement account, cashed in stock, got an inheritance. Yes, as long as it is sourced. So a lot of people have issues with this part of things. Well, it's my money. Why can't I use it? Absolutely. But since 9/11, there's the Patriot Act. There's all of the different guidelines that we have to go by. And so we have to be able to what's called source that money. So if you took the money out of the bank whenever all of that happened, people took money out of their bank and everything else and kept their cash at home. And then, you're going to buy a house. Well, I have all of this cash at home. Well, you can't use that. So in the past, I've actually been able to use it a couple of times, only because we traced it and said, okay, you took $40,005.10 out, and then you went and put that right back in. And so that's the only times that's where it's a conversation before you go moving money around. So again, your bank statements are going to show, do you have enough money to buy a home for your down payment and closing costs? You have to have that. You have to have your upfront monies, which is your escrow deposit, your appraisal, things like that. You have to have that money. You need that money before you start looking. All pages. So if your bank statement, this is a fight all the time. So if your bank statement shows 1 of 6, but your 6th page says intentionally left blank, I still need that page 6. Anybody doing your financing still needs page 6, because how do I know what's on there? You tell me that it says intentionally left blank, but I don't know that. So that is needed also, and it's required. It's not an option, I'm sorry, but we have to have it. And that's, again, anywhere you go. And so that is, again, a very big thing. Making sure names on the account are yours. In other words, it's your account. Is there anyone else on your account? So if your account says Chris Suarez POD, and then it says somebody else's name, so POD is paid on death, So on that, I don't need anything for it. But if I have myself and my husband and he is not on the loan, I will have to have an access letter saying that I have 100% access to that money. Yes, your name is on the account, but you're joint owners with someone. So that's what we're looking at also, is that whose names are on the account. Is there any NSFs or overdrafts? Some people don't know what this means. This means that you went into the negative in your bank account. And so why did that happen? What happened? Sometimes we'll need a letter of explanation for that. Sometimes it was just that, you have an overdraft and your savings took up for the checking, and that's fine. We don't need an explanation for that. But if you have NSFs, in other words, bouncing checks and things and items being returned, we do need explanation for that in most cases, because if you're not managing your money and you're having NSFs here, what happens when you go to make a mortgage payment? So accidents happen. If it happens, one time in, your year to date is one charge, then again, that's fine in most cases. And I'm speaking from what I do. So a bank may not say the same thing. So you may have one NSF, uh, and you may have an explanation for it. My check didn't go through or whatever, my deposit didn't go through or something or whatever, or, I was sick, or my family member was sick, whatever the case is, it's explainable in most cases. If you have 10 NSFs for the year, that's not really, that could actually make you not be able to buy a home or to refinance. So be careful on your monies and on your banks. We're also looking at funds to close. Do you have enough funds to close? We need to have, if you're required to put down a down payment and then you have your closing cost and we need $20,000 total, we need to see that money in there. Sometimes you may be saving up a paycheck, or you're expecting an insurance claim to come in, or whatever the case is. Again, conversation, but we still need to see that you have the money in the account. Last thing is, and this is not all of what we look at, but this is the majority, but payments that's not on your credit. So in other words, if you're paying let's say it's a joint account, and my husband has a bill that is paid, a car payment, let's say, that is paid out of our joint account, but it's not on my credit. I will still need to say, hey, what is that, or whatever, in order to show that it's not mine in this case, liability. Because if it's my liability, then that has to be counted against my debt. So again, those are the things that we're looking at on assets. And again, this includes 401k. If you're using that 401k, what amount is able to be pulled. If you have retirement amount, we use only between 60 to 70%, depends on the loan, to use that for what's called reserves. Reserves meaning money sitting in the bank that we don't need. And sometimes a loan does require reserves. So it just depends on your scenario. So those are different things that we look at. Next is ID. So this is saying who you are. What do we look for? So I'm looking for your full legal name. So since the Patriot Act, most people, I think it's nationwide or whatever, you have to take your birth certificate with you whenever everything first changed. You had to take your birth certificate with you also in order to update your driver's license. And so that's where the star is put on there. I believe that that's the whole process. And so we're looking to see, what is your legal name? Sometimes your driver's license does not match your social security card. So we tried to get the social security card, because that is how social security shows you, which that should match your birth certificate as well. And that is your legal name. So for instance, when I got married, way back when, I never went and changed my name at the Social Security office. Well, and then a few years later, after I got married, my wallet was stolen. I never got my Social Security card replaced. So after 17 years, I'm the example of don't do what I did. I went to go get my Social Security card, and it still showed my maiden name. I never changed it. And that was before the Patriot Act and before all of that happened. And so my driver's license said my married name. My tax return showed my married name, which that caused a whole cluster there because they were showing I didn't file my taxes because I was doing it under my married name instead of my maiden. So those are several things, that we look at, because everything has to match. You're signing legal documents. This is a deed, so on and so forth. So it has to be your legal name. Is the ID that you're giving me valid? In other words, is it expired? We cannot have expired IDs. It's got to be up to date. Your name matches on all of the other documents. So if your name on your social is, in my case, if it's Chris Suarez, then if another document says, somebody else, then why do those names not match? Do you go by something else? And, whatever the case is. And so that's what we're looking at as well. Your legal name is what's used for all documents whenever you're buying or refinancing the house. Again, it is legal documents, it is a deed, it is a promissory note, all of the above. So it has to be your legal name. And then let's see, what else do we have? I think that is it as far as that's concerned. So those are the majority of the documents. There are some other documents depending on your case. So if you've ever been divorced, you will need to have your divorce papers, all pages. If it reflects a marital settlement statement, we'll need that. Needs to show child support. So there's several different things on there that are required. And again, it's a case by case after this. So what I've given you is the majority of the bulk of what is needed in order to finance a home, whether you are refinancing or whether you're buying. So you can always call with whatever questions. The information that I'm giving you is pretty standard across the board, no matter where you go. But you can always give us a call and see, is there anything that you've got questions on? But again, remember, don't get frustrated for being asked for all of these things because they're required. It is standard. We help you to get those things. There's only so much that we can, but give you tools and tricks and where to go and how to get and everything else. When you are also getting a transaction history on a bank account or certain things or whatever as far as assets are concerned, it will have to have what's called the URL at the bottom, which is the website. So there's different ways in Chrome that you can get that. So again, it's a matter of finding the right tool in order to get what you need to get into a home or to refinance. So that is the bulk of everything here. So hopefully this has given you a little bit more insight on why you're asked for all of those things. It's not because we enjoy, irritating you or any of the above. It is just something that is needed in order to get you done. So that is it. Thanks for being here on Coffee with Chris. And this will be posted everywhere. And so you can share it with your friends, family, whoever you want, but it'll be posted on YouTube, Facebook, all of the above. If you would be so kind, give us a like or a share or a thumbs up on whatever platform that you're seeing us on. That would be great. It helps us to get out there more. So I hope you have a great Monday. I hope your morning started out well. And this is Chris, Coffee with Chris. I was talking the whole time, so I didn't have a sip of coffee. So we will see you next Monday at 10 o'clock. If you know an expert that is an expert in their field, whatever the field is, it does not need to be about real estate. Please make sure and comment or get a hold of me, and we would love to have you or them on and tell us what they know. Thanks so much. Talk to you soon.